Hello there. Welcome to CXC Math TV. And today we're going to be looking at simple interest, a really nice topic. And so, just to get started, to kickstart, let's do some warm-up questions. So what if I ask you, what is 35 increased by 8%? And what is the percent decrease from 144 to 120? And what is 1500 decreased by 75%? And what is the percent increase from 0.32 to 0.64? I would like you to pause the video and answer these four questions for me. So just take 5 seconds. Pause the video and then take 5 minutes to answer these four questions. Alright, so as you pause the video, let's go through them. So the first one, 35 increased by 8%. Now, if it's increased by 8%, many persons would like to do it this way. They might find 8% of 35, and 8% as a fraction is 8 over 100 times 35. And you work that out, 8 over 100 multiplied by 35. You put that into your calculator and you get 2.8. And so then you might say then it's going to be 35 plus 2.8, and that gives you 37.8. Some persons might do it this way, or some other persons might say 8% is 0.08, and so as a decimal we want 1.08 of 35, but of means what? Multiply. And so you might just put in 1.08 times 35 and you get your 37.8. Whichever method you did is fine. Wow! Secondly, number 2. What is the percent of decrease from 144 to 120? What is the percent decrease? So the first thing some persons might do is find out what the decrease is. The decrease is 144 minus 120, and 144 minus 120, I believe that's 24. And so then we can work out now the percent decrease, which is equal to how much it decreased by 24 over what was the initial amount, 144, multiplied by 100. So we put 24 over 144, and then we multiply it by 100, and we're getting 24 over 144 multiplied by 100, and you're getting 16 and 2/3%. So it decreased by 16 and 2/3%. Now it says, what is 1500 decreased by 75%? So if it loses 75% of its value, right, that's number 3 now. 1500 decreased by 75%, so we just need to find 0.75 times 1500, and what we're getting is 1125. So that's equal to 1125. So if it's decreased by 1125, then the remaining amount is 1500 minus 1125. And when you do the subtraction, so let's finish it here, 1500 minus 1125, we're ending up getting 375. Finally, for number 4, what is the percent of increase from 0.32 to 0.64? So the first thing you might do is find the increase. And the increase is, notice the doublet, so the increase is 0.32. And so the percentage increase is equal to the increase amount, the 0.32, divided by what was the original value, 0.32, multiplied by 100, and that is giving us 100. Wow! So there's a 100% increase from 0.32 to 0.64. Really nice. Okay, so these are all the answers right there for number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Now, you're probably wondering, why did we do this for warm-up, right? Why is this warm-up necessary? Now, the key thing I want you to take away from the warm-up was, notice that it involves a lot of percentage, right? A lot of percentage increasing and decreasing. So the key vocabulary for today with this topic, simple interest. The key vocabulary, interest, of course. If the topic is simple interest, we need to know what interest is first. Then we need to know what simple interest is. Another key terminology is principal. And finally, you need to know rate of interest. So the first thing is to start by asking, what is interest? So interest is the amount of money charged for borrowing or using money. That's all. That is all is interest. Think about it, right? When you go to the bank and you're going to borrow money, you're not going to pay back that exact amount of money. Or if you go to your friend and you say, Catherine, can I borrow $50? Catherine is going to tell you, well, I will lend you $50, but next week you have to pay me back 75. So notice Catherine is doing what? She's pretty much saying that for her to lend you $50, you're gonna have to pay her back $25, right? That $25 extra is interest. That's all. Now, when you deposit money into a savings account, you pay interest, as we say. And simple interest is one of the type of interest that we use in everyday life. So now, what is this simple interest? First thing is you're gonna have to learn this formula. The formula for simple interest, which is the money paid on the principal amount, and the simple interest, we're gonna denote it with the letter I, as you see the arrow pointing to the green. Simple interest is equal to P times R times T. That's all you need to know. P times R times T. Now what is P? P is your principal, the initial amount borrowed or invested. What is R? R is your rate of interest. That's the interest rate paid. All right. And then T is time. T is time in years that the money is borrowed or invested. Please know this formula. I equal P times R times T. The dot just means times, okay? Please remember the dot means time. So that's all you need to know. So let's see how we're going to use it in an example. So this says finding interest and total payment on a loan. So it says to buy a car, Jessica borrowed $15,000, that's of course USD, for 3 years at an annual interest rate of 9%. How much will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the third year? And what is the total amount that she will repay? So notice what they're asking is, how much interest will she pay? How much interest, right? So the interest rate is 9%. How much interest will she pay? The first thing I want you to do when doing these questions is to identify your P, identify your R, and identify your T. So I'm going to change the color and underline it. So in this question here, notice they told us that Jessica borrowed $15,000. So remember, what did we say was principal? The initial amount borrowed. So this $15,000, that is our P, or principal. The next thing is how long she borrowing this for 3 years. And so that is our time, T. And then they told us the simple interest rate is 9%. That is our R. Now we can proceed. The question says how much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the third year. So now you have to remember the formula interest equal P times R times T. Use that formula, okay? Now substitute. P is 15,000. The interest rate is 9%, but we're going to work with 9% as a decimal. You have to work with either the decimal or the fraction. I am using the decimal. After which you can plug it into your calculator. 15,000 times 0.09 times 3 and you get 4,050. So what we're saying is that Jessica will pay $4,050 in interest. Now I'm going to go back a little and put or, because some persons might be used to working with the fraction. So if you wanted to work with 15,000 times the rate being 9% times 3, and then you divide it all by 100. Some persons might be familiar with it this way because you're keeping the rate as a fraction. 9% as a fraction is 9 over 100. So that is why we have this down here below. But remember that 9% as a decimal is 0.09. So depending on which one you want to use, you will still get the same answer, okay? Wow! But I prefer to use the decimal. It's up to you which one you like to use. So now that we said that Jessica will pay $4,050 in interest, the question also asks, what's the total amount that she will have to repay? Remember, Jessica borrowed $15,000, so she can't just pay them $4,000 and little bit. You have to go pay them back their $15,000 plus the interest. So I want you to remember this new formula that the total amount paid, we call total amount A, it's equal to the principal value plus the interest. So input that, 15,000 plus 4,050, and we get $19,050. So Jessica will repay a total of $19,050 on her loan. Imagine, she borrowed $15,000 and she have to end up paying $19,000. That's crazy. But that is just how loan payment is. Alright? So I want you to pause the video and attempt question 2. It says to buy a laptop computer, Elaine borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at an annual simple interest rate of 5%. How much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the 3rd year? And what is the total amount that she will repay? Pause the video and attempt this question. Well, as you attempt that question, the first thing I always say is to identify your P, your R, and your T, right? So remember, we're trying to find the interest, right? To identify your P. What is P? 2,000, that is P. What is your time? 3 years, that is your T. What is your interest rate? 5%, that's your R. So now we write down the formula. Interest is principal times rate times time, that's simple interest formula. Then we input the principal value 2,000 times the rate, 5% being 0.05 times the time being 3. You put all of that into your calculator and you're going to get 300. So that means that Elaine will pay $300 in interest. And then how much will she have to pay in total? Remember, she borrowed $2,000 for the laptop. And so she's going to have to pay that $2,000 plus the interest. So Elaine is going to have to pay $2,300. So that is it. Elaine will repay $2,300 on her loan. Okay, next question. Pause the video and attempt. It says Nancy invested $6,000 in a bond at a yearly interest rate of 3%. She earned $450 in interest. How long was the money invested? Pause the video and attempt this question for me. Alright, so as you pause this video, right, the first thing I want you to do is always identify what is given. Notice $6,000, the initial amount that she borrowed or invested, that's your principal. So that's our P. They gave us the interest rate R. So R is 3% as a decimal. 3% is 0.03 as a decimal. Then they told us she earned $450 in interest. Notice this time, what did they do? They're not asking us to find the interest. They gave us the interest. So what are they asking us to find? How long? How long is now what? Time. So since they're asking us how long, what we're going to do now is write down the formula. Interest equal principal times rate times time. Then put in what you know. The interest is 6,000. Sorry, the principal is 6,000. The interest is 450. The rate is 3% or 0.03 times t. So in this question now, the variable that we're trying to find is t. Notice what? In this question, we're trying to find t because we know interest this time. So not all the time they're going to ask you to find interest. Sometimes you'll have to transpose to find another variable in the equation. So now we can multiply 6,000 times 0.03, and what we get is 180. So we're saying then that 450 is equal to 180 times t. But we still need to find t, so we're going to divide both sides by 180. So when we do the division, I know I didn't show it in this step. What we actually did was we divide both sides by 180, and 450 divided by 180, you put that in a calculator and you get 2.5. Wow! So in other words, Nancy invested $6,000 for 2.5 years. But remember, 2.5 years mean half a year is 6 months. So she really invested for 2 years and 6 months. Really nice. Next question. Another one just like the one before. It says TJ invested $4,000 in a bond at a yearly rate of 2%. He earned $200 in interest. How long was the money invested? Pause the video and attempt the question. Alright, so you would have paused and attempted. So first we know we're going to use the formula. Interest is principal times rate times time. What was the principal again? 4,000. I hope you would have identified that. Principal is 4,000. What was the rate? It told us yearly rate 2% or 0.02. And then we don't know time. We don't know time. That's what we're trying to find. And then they told us he earned $200 in interest. So they gave us our simple interest I. So now let's input what we know. Interest being 200, principal 4,000, rate 0.02 times t. Now we multiply 4,000 times 0.02 and we get 80. And so 200 is equal to 80 times t. So now divide both sides by 80 and so we get 2.5. So in other words, the money was invested for 2.5 years. Easy, easy, easy. Nice. Okay, example 6. We're stepping up the difficulty of the question. So I want you to pause the video and attempt this question. It says John's parents deposited 1,000 into a savings account as a college fund when he was born. How much will John have in the account after 18 years at a yearly simple interest rate of 3.25%? So pause the video and attempt this question. Alright, first thing they told us was what? John's parents deposited. Deposited is what? Initial amount. So they gave you the principal. Cool. Next thing, what did they do? They gave us the time that they're going to be invested for, 18 years. And they gave us the interest rate, 3.25. So straight away we can use the simple interest formula. I is P times R times T. We know P, we know R, and we know T. So input everything. Now remember, please, notice I put it in yellow here. Use 0.0325 for 3.25%. To go from percent to decimal, you divide the percentage by 100. That's all we did right there. Now multiply all of these, put in a calculator, and you get your interest. So the interest is $585. Now, remember, after you find the interest, you're not finished. There's no way it's just going to be 585 in the account. What we have to do then is, remember, we have to do what? To get the final amount, the formula is, remember, what's the formula? P plus I equal A. So the initial amount plus the interest give you your final amount. So in the account, John will have $1,585 after 18 years. And that's it. Really, really, really nice. And we get the gist. Alright, so here's another question for you to do. Pause the video and attempt, and then once you attempt, I will just show you the solution to this question. So please, I'm asking you, pause the video and attempt. Alright? Just pause and do it. Alright? Do it. Attempt the question. Alright, so as you pause and attempt, here's the solution. Just going through the solution slowly. And that's what you should have gotten. Really, really, really nice. Let's do one more. So this one says Mr. Johnson borrowed $8,000 for 4 years to make home improvements. If he repaid a total of $10,320, at what interest rate did he borrow the money? So pause the video and attempt this question. So the first thing I said you need to do was do what? Identify your principal, identify your time. Now this time they gave us what? This is his what? Final amount. That's the final amount that he paid. Notice it says total. Please remember, total is final amount. And then it says what's the interest rate. So we're trying to find R. So we need to find R. Identify what the question is asking you. So to find R, first thing we have to do is, since they give us the total, what do we know about the total? What we do know about the total is principal plus interest. So we can use that to find the interest by transposing 8,000 plus I equal 10,320. So what number plus 8,000 give us this amount? We transpose it, so we get 2,320. So now that we get the interest, we're good to go. Because now we can use the interest formula, the simple interest formula, and the simple interest tell us P times R times T. So now that the interest is 2,320, the principal is 8,000, the time is 4 years, we just don't know R. Multiply 8,000 times 4 to get 32,000. Then we divide both sides by 32,000. Right, so we divide both sides by 32,000. I know I didn't show the cancellation, that's not so much important, but really and truly all we did, divide both sides by 32,000, that cancel each other, and so R is 2320 over 32,000, which works out to be 0.0725. But remember, that's the rate as a decimal. You can multiply it by 100 to get it as a percent. So Mr. Johnson borrowed 7.25%. Really, really nice. So I have a couple more questions you're going to do. And I just want you to pause the video and do them for me, please. So this question here, Mr. Mogi borrowed $9,000 for 10 years to make home improvement. If he repaid a total of $20,000, at what interest rate did he borrow the money? Pause the video and attempt this question. Alright, so now displaying the solution. This is what you should have had. $11,000 being the interest. Then using the interest formula, you're going to get the rate to be 12% or 12.2%. Really nice. Alright, and so that's it. That's the video on simple interest. I really hope that this video was beneficial. Remember how the questions can be structured. They can ask you to find the interest rate, the principal. They can ask you to find the interest rate, the principal, the time. They can ask you to find any one of those variables, but the key thing to take away is to remember the interest formula. Remember this one. And also remember the next one for the total amount is principal plus interest. These are the only two formulas you need to remember for simple interest. Alright, stay tuned. Working on a website where you'll be able to get free worksheets. Right, you'll get free worksheets that you can practice some more questions. Alright, so stay tuned and have a blessed day.